Hello everyone, we now begin with the second module of the subject network security. So the second module consists of transport level security, that is how is the security provided in the transport level, which is also one of the OSI layers. And we will be understanding here about the web security. So as I have already told you, cryptography by William Stallings is the prescribed textbook, and as it is shown, textbook 1. So it says here textbook 1 chapter 16 is what we need to refer with respective to this topic, transport level security. So the contents of transport level security are web security considerations. We need to understand what is web security, how it is provided, and then we begin with the layers which are present in the transport layer, which is called as secure sockets layer and transport layer security, which are these two layers which are helping us to provide adequate security. And then the protocols HTTPS and secure shell SSH. So web security considerations. Web is widely used in business, government, individuals. Every one of us is expanding their business, and everybody have their own web browser, and it is predominant everywhere, and therefore it is always vulnerable. It is prone for attacks. There are variety of threats. So need to have adequate security mechanisms, and therefore the focus on web security is must at transport layer, which is taken care by these layers SSL and TLS layer, HTTPS and SSH protocol. To begin with, we'll understand first about the OSI layers. So the network has 7 layers, starting from the physical data link, network, transport, session, presentation and application. Each layer requires specific security measures for the overall network to be secure. So what exactly is physical layer, which is wired connection and wireless connections are right now existing, and wired is almost taken over by the wireless infrastructure. So earlier when it was wired connections, what people would do is they would do the tapping and the information could be extracted. So in order to overcome that, what people did is attacks were possible. Just to place a pin, the information could be tapped. So to overcome this, people started using from normal wires to coaxial cable, and that also had been prone for attacks, and as a result twisted pair cabling were used, and as a result to one extent the ability of invaders were to compromise. It came down, and later on, right now we have fiber optic ones, which is little difficult for tapping the information from the wired connections. Of course, when we are talking in terms of wireless, we have the OSI layers. So from the connection onwards, attacks are always there from the physical layer. Next we go to the data link layer. You have an interface card, and this interface card has the right types of protocols which is corresponding with respective to the addresses. Now what happens, the address can be changed from one network to another network, and there also it is prone for attacks. Next we have the network layer. So in network layer, the MAC address of the destination, if it isn't found, the data is sent to the router. So router will understand what exactly is the IP address and tries to make a decision wisely and send the data to the suitable address. Or it can, if it is not able to reach the destination, at least it will reach back to the sender. So how people thought of is, attackers have developed many ways of invading routers. Therefore, router is a hub where most of the informations can be extracted, and therefore many attacks have happened on the routers. So the router is a median place where it gets to the destination. So in this place, you can not only receive the data, you can also hack the information to where it is going. That is the destination. So there is a possibility of many resources getting corrupted, copied or damaged. Therefore, what exactly has to be done is, you have to ban remote access tools such as telnet, and ensuring the software and all routers is always kept fully updated. Therefore, rather than using further distance, make small destinations. So in between you can't have one information sent and you have router somewhere in India. from America. So that is not avoided. Median places you try to have a router. That is what the author says to overcome the attack on the network layer. Next we have transport layer. In transport layer, TCP/IP is the protocol which is running over just above the network layer, and it is designed to get data from one place to another. Using this protocol, the data is transferred from one location to another location. So this requires excessive, because transport layer is where the peer level network occurs, or the peer level transaction occurs. So it requires extensive error checking and data loss prevention. Therefore, in order to send the information, prior to sending the information, you have to undergo a procedure called as handshaking. What is handshaking? The two people who are into the communication will go on talking, telling, can I send, or am I ready, all such things. So this is the way you can avoid attacks, and it is possible to overcome the attacks by having a confirmation and reconfirmation. Therefore, that is one way of preventing an attack. Another way in the transport level layer is you can also implement a firewall which will protect the hosts inside the network, and the networks are prevented. Next we have, apart from firewalls, anti-malware scanners. So already we have discussed about this anti-malware. In case you have the virus attack, you can make use of the anti-malware scanner, which will scan and find out whether it is a virus attack or a worm attack, and you can take measures in avoiding and penetrating deep inside the network. Session layer, it is here where non-repudiation can be overcome. So a possibility of attack called as non-repudiation or denial of service, DDoS, directed denial of service. So this can be overcome by using the SSL layer, TLS layer, HTTP, and though I tell it is the transport layer, just above the transport layer immediately attached is the session layer. Therefore, in the session layer we have all these layers which are helping us to have a strict vigilance on the type of attacks. Next we have the presentation layer, where we ensure that every data is updated, or every prone check for attacks are updated, and it is sent. Next we have the application layer. So application layer is where we have already discussed, you have the attack once in the application level and the network level. So in the network level is already we have seen where the routers are getting attacked. Now in the application layer, normally this is where malwares are going to attack. Therefore you have to have fully updated antivirus software, and damage is caused when we have the access rights, where a computer is logged in to the network and you go for some other work. So immediately the virus sneaks in and takes the control of the system. Next we have the user layer, which is almost on the top. So we see attacks have been very much increased, not by 1%, 2% or 100%, it is by 250%. And the normal type of attacks are the phishing, where it appears to you as a website being created and which is genuine, but actually it is not so. It is a hack. It is trying to lure you by entering into that and copying the information, so the data gets corrupted. So these are the different types of attacks happening in the user layer. Now we will talk into this web security considerations. So as I told, many attacks are possible, and usually we have a system. Whenever we talk about web, two people are into the business. One is the sender and the other one is the user. So sender is none other than the client, and the user receiver is none other than the browser. So it is always a server, client server relationship. So we need to ensure that you have the right type of software, and you also have to see that if there is a possibility of attack or not, and you also have to check with respect to the browser. So both servers and browser sites has to be protected. The different types of threats, as already discussed: major threats, integrity, confidentiality, denial of service, authentication. So integrity is modification of data, confidentiality is your information is stolen and received by some other person who is not destined. Denial of service, the system is not giving you access and it is not permitting you to do the necessary jobs. If there is a request from the user, system is not performing that. Authentication is data forgery. So somebody will take your place and do the business. So in approaches in web security, there are a number of approaches, but first we should know about the stack. So first we look into the stack structure, how exactly the stack is and all such things. So network level, you have the stack structure with respective to transport layer, network level, and the application layer. And we have in the network layer, you have IP security, which is the next topic which we are going to discuss in module 3, which uses filtering so that only selected traffic is made to pass. In transport layer security, it is taken care by the SSL and the TLS layers. That is the SSL secure socket layer and transport layer security. So the topics which we are going to discuss, since the module is very vast, you have the vast content. Therefore, in order to remember that, this is how the flow of the discussion proceeds. First we are talking about the stack structure, then we discuss about the SSL secure socket layer. In SSL alone, you have very huge contents to be understood, and in SSL itself there is a possibility of 2-3 questions with respective to academics. Therefore, we need to understand the contents of SSL, that is the how SSL performs. SSL performs with respective to two states called as SSL sessions and SSL connection. So session is after connection, the session begins. Yes, respected allotted time is given, and within that duration you have to finish your business. And in order to do that, you have few conditions, and those conditions are called as session state parameters and connection state parameters. So as I told, this is the stack structure, and the stack structure is discussed with respective to network level, transport level, and application level. So when you talk in terms of network level, you have IP and IPsec protocols in the network level. So network level, then you have the transport layer, and then you have the application layer, because transport layer and the session layer are combined over here. Therefore, focus is given on the network layer, which is controlled or taken care by IP security protocol. Next, we have the transport level. So in transport level, focus is given on the session layer, which is just immediately above the transport layer, and the topics we need to understand is all about SSL and TLS. So you have IP, network layer, TCP, transport layer, and just above the transport layer is the session layer, which is attached. So most of the times we can combine session and transport. And next we have protocols over here. Next is the application level. So you have the network, you have the transport layer, and you have few protocols which are helping us to keep the system intact with respective to session layer. And these are the applications: SET, secure electronic transaction, PGP, which is take pretty good private service, which is basically meant for email security. And we have SMIME, secured. Basically, these are meant for email protections, PGP and MIME. So these are the different applications associated with respective to the transport layer. Now we will discuss about SSL, or the secure socket layer. So this is widely used and is transport layer security service. So it's almost called as transport layer security. It was developed by Netscape, and third version is being designed right now. And subsequently it came to be known as internet standard known as TLS. So normally most of the context, the author says here SSL and TLS are one and the same, but there are few differences which will be quoted later. We can just look into the difference between SSL and TLS. So SSL has two layers of protocols. So as I told you, we'll have two layers of protocols which is connected, which is called as SSL connection and SSL. Okay, sorry. SSL has two layers of protocols. One is the bottom layer, which is providing the basic structure, and on the top of this we have the advanced or the higher structure, which is taking care of the SSL layer. So SSL layer is divided into two layers, the bottom structure, the bottom layer and the upper layer. So the bottom layer is called as SSL record protocol. So what exactly the lower layer does here? It provides basic services to higher layer protocol. So it is providing services in supporting the higher layer protocol. So basic layer or the bottommost layer supports the higher layer protocols. So when you look into the higher layer protocol, there are SSL specific protocol meant only for SSL, and they are called as the handshake protocol, chain cipher specific protocol, alert protocol. So in the next slide we will know about the architecture of SSL. So as I told, SSL has two layers, SSL record protocol and higher layer protocol. So when we look into this SSL architecture, so we have IP. What is IP? It is nothing but your network layer. Next you have TCP, which is nothing but your transport layer, and above this you have SSL record protocol. So SSL record protocol, which is the basic layer or the bottom layer, and above this you have the higher layer. So higher layer is this, which consists of four different protocols. So SSL handshake protocol, SSL chain cipher specific protocol, SSL alert protocol and HTTP. So each one of this, so we are right now here TCP we are not at all touching, we are focusing on the session layer. So in session layer we have SSL layer. In SSL layer there are two layers. This whole thing is your session layer. So we have SSL record protocol and the higher layer protocol. In the bottom layer what it is, and then only we go to the higher layer. In higher layer we will see four different protocols. So higher layer protocol, as I told, HTTP, which is abbreviated as Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It provides faster transfer service for web server and client transaction. So it aids the transaction between the client and the server. And next you have handshake protocol, which is helping us to have the exchange of the messages. Next we have chain cipher specific protocol, which uses SSL protocols and also tells us whether you are in the running state or in the waiting state. So this is managing how the exchange of messages happen is being managed by these protocols. Next you have the alert protocol, which gives SSL related alerts. So alerts can be fatal or a warning. If it is a warning, you can ignore and proceed. If it is a fatal attack or a fatal alert, you have to abandon the process and you can't proceed further, means there is a severe attack and you have to stop the process. So now we are focusing on SSL record protocol, that is the lowermost layer. So what is SSL record protocol? As I told you, it is the lower layer and it supports or it provides services to the higher layer. So what are the services the SSL record protocol does and how it does? So what are the services? Before understanding the services, first let us analyze how it operates. So there are two important concepts which we need to understand in the SSL record protocol, which is called as the SSL session and SSL connection. So what exactly you mean by SSL session and SSL connection? This is important from the examination point of view. Most of the time this is a favorite question by the examiner. So first we will discuss or we will try to understand what do you mean by SSL session. Briefly I have given here as bullets, and in detail it is supposed to be explained as and when the marks has been, right amount of marks has been allotted. So SSL session, it is an association between the client and the server. Yes, definitely SSL comes web security. When we are talking, it is definitely the client and the server, and it is created by the handshake protocol. It defines, so handshaking is very much necessary, because two people, when they are into conversation, they just don't do the conversation, they introduce about themselves and then only do the conversation. It has a set of cryptographic parameters, because you have to protect the information, you have to code it, you have to encrypt it, you have to see to it that it is safely transmitted and received and finally decoded. So therefore this can be shared by multiple SSL connections, not necessary that you have only one server and one client. You can have multiple number of clients and one server. You can have one client and multiple servers. So there's a possibility and it supports. It is used to avoid expensive negotiation in each connection. So this is about SSL session. Now we talk about SSL connection. So SSL session is what you are going to do, and so you do the handshaking, you do the transaction or information sharing, you do the cryptography, and you see to it that it is protected. So before that you have SSL connection. I had to do this first. So helps in providing suitable transport service. Yes, meant for connection means to connecting road. So that is how you are allowed to do the transport service. So each session has number of states like send and receive, pending, read and write status. So whenever you have, if the road is busy, you have the traffic, you have to wait. If the road is not busy, you will be allowed to move. So send and receive is like that, pending, read and write. You will have to wait if the traffic is busy. This is normally done in the peer-to-peer level, and it has communication links, and it is associated with one session only. Connection means, so though the session is with one to many, but connection is with one and one, because you can't hastily do this connections in bigger numbers, and there is always prone for attacks whenever you make it complicated. Therefore it is one to one connection. So this is about your SSL connection and SSL session. And associated with these topics are SSL state parameters and session state parameters and connection state parameters. So what are the parameters associated with these two states and how it helps is what is the next topic all about, which we will be discussing shortly.